Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. I'm Gautam, an IS officer as well as MTech structures from IIT Bombay. Many of you over here would be educators, students or even working professionals who have to deal with the topic of structural analysis. And you must be knowing that before we design a particular structure, there is one prerequisite, that is analysis of any civil engineering structure. Because unless and until we analyze a structure, we cannot design it. Right? If I ask you a question that for the frame which is given over here, draw the qualitative bending moment diagram and the deflected shape. Majority of you must be thinking, yeah, it's very simple. We have learnt in our graduation. But now, if I add a twist and if I ask you the same question, that without using a calculator or pen for calculations, can you solve it qualitatively? So majority of you would be thinking, what the question is this? How it is possible? Because what you have learned is that you have been given a problem, you take a pen, you take a calculator and just you start solving it, and after solving then you can conclude your answer, because this is what you have learned. Because you have learned how to solve, you have not learned the basics or the fundamentals of the structural analysis. What is important is that whatever is given to you, first of all we must understand ki what exactly has been given to us, what is this problem, how to approach it, because approach matters. And fundamentally you have to be very strong, because in this video I am going to tell you about how to fundamentally analyze this particular frame without using a calculator or without using a pen for calculations. Yes, you heard me very correct. So do watch this video till the end, and I'm 100% sure that this particular, after watching this video, it is going to completely change your understanding and perception about the subject of structural analysis. You will be really astonished to know that, oh, can this ever happen? Yes, this is the beauty of the fundamentals. So stay tuned and continue to watch this video. And for those who have not liked or subscribed to my channel yet, then do like and subscribe my channel so that you don't miss any of my updates and videos. Hello friends, welcome. Let us see about how are we going to draw the bending moment and the deflected shape of this two-dimensional frame qualitatively. Right, so we know that is a two-dimensional frame. That means here it is an x-axis and here it is a y-axis. Now there are two loads P and P acting at a distance of L by 3 from B and C points respectively. A and D are the hinge supports. Now we know that hinge supports do not allow the translation movement, but they do allow the rotation. Right. Now by basics of structural analysis, we know that there are three equations of equilibrium. One is summation of horizontal forces equal to 0, summation of all the vertical forces also equals to 0, and the sum of all the moments about the z axis equal to 0. The z axis is the axis which is perpendicular to the screen. That is, you are having three equations of equilibrium over here. But now if you observe that you have a vertical reaction at A, here you have a vertical reaction at D, horizontal reaction at D and horizontal reaction at A. So you have four unknowns. So there are four unknowns and there are three number of equations of equilibrium. That is 4 minus 3 is equal to 1. You can say that this particular frame under consideration is statically indeterminate to the first degree. That is, it is indeterminate. That is, it cannot be solved completely by the three equations of equilibrium. That is, compatibility equations needs to be resorted to in order to solve this particular problem. And you must be knowing that there are n number of methods. One is the flexibility method, next is the unit load method, the moment distribution method, and then there will be many other methods also by which you can easily solve this particular problem. But now, as I already mentioned you, that I do not want to touch a calculator or do not want to do any calculation with the help of a pen, and qualitatively I want to solve this problem. So let us see how do we proceed about it. See, this is a frame A which is there in my this frame I have redrawn over here. Right, this is my frame number 1. Now this frame number 1, can I divide it into two subframes 2 and 3? Please listen to me very carefully. What I have done is that this frame number 1, I have divided it into two subframes, number 2 and number 3. in such a way that the results which are obtained from frame number 2 and 3 when added together will be same as the results or given by the frame number 1 or the parent frame. This is going to be called as the basic principle of superposition. This principle of superposition you must have definitely came across in your graduation, but you must have not heard about the applications of this superposition. This is applicable for a linearly elastic behavior, and when the loads are static, yes, your loads are static. P load is a static load, it is not varying with time. It is a linearly elastic behavior, that is the Hooke's law is applicable. So this is a basic principle of superposition which you are having over here, and by the virtue of this superposition what you are saying is that you have divided this frame number 1 into two subframes 2 and 3. If you carefully observe this particular thing, this load which is there over here as P is getting reflected over here, and this load P is getting reflected over here. That means when I add these both the frames 2 and 3, I am going to get this parent frame having the two loads. One is at P and one is this P. Right. Similarly, can I say that this is a vertical reaction at point A for this? This is going to be vertical reaction at point number D. Let me come across over here. Right. Vertical reaction at A for the first frame, vertical reaction at D for the first frame. Similarly, the vertical reaction at A for the second frame, VD2, similarly VA3 and VD3. This is what we know up to now, right? Now, by the virtue of superposition, as I already told you, the results which are obtained from frame number 2 and frame number 3, when we add them together, I'm going to get the results for the frame 1. So since I want to know the values or the evaluate the frame 1, first of all I need to evaluate the subframes 2 and 3. When I can get the evaluation of frame number 2 and 3, I will add both of them, and then simply I can get the evaluation for frame number 1. Now, by principle of superposition, what I can say that the vertical reaction at 1 is equal to VA2 plus VA3. Can I say that? Yes, definitely you can say that. Similarly, can I say that vertical reaction at D for the first frame is equal to VD2 plus VD3? Right. The reactions which we can get from VA2, VA3, I will add both of them, I will get VA1. Similarly, I can say that I will calculate VD2 and VD3, I will add both of them and I will get VD1. Right, up to now it is very clear. Now let us move one step ahead. So this frame number 1, let me see, there will be some kind of vertical reaction which I already told over here. Right. And similarly this vertical reaction at A for the frame 2, here it will be. Now if I carefully observe this frame number 2, carefully observe this frame 2, this under the action of this downward load P, what I am going to get is that this beam BC is going to bend something of this fashion. It's going to sag, right, in this fashion. Now since this point B node or joint B is rigid joint, that means a rigid joint is that joint in which the angle it makes with the members before loading will be same as after loading, right? So since the original angle is 90, after bending also it will be 90. So, and for instance you consider that these 2 points, that is the R, A and D, are roller joints. Now it is just a visualization, a word of caution. This frame 2 cannot exist because it is going to be an unstable frame, but just for the sake of understanding and visualization, I am just trying to bring it out to you in a different way. Right, under the action of this load, this beam BC is going to bend on something of this sort, and this point A is going to come to this point A dash. Similarly, this point C is going to come to this new point of D dash. Why? Because when this force is going to act in the vertically downward direction, this beam is going to bend like this, and in order to maintain this 90 degree, this member AB is going to deflect like this, and this member CD is going to deflect like this or bend like this, right? And this point A is going to move to this A dash, and this point D is going to move to this D dash. Now tell me, Actually, in practical, is this a roller joint? No. What is it? It is a hinge joint. This is a hinge joint. And what about this? This is also a hinge joint. Now, in reality, these two joints are hinge joints. Now, can I say that hinge joints do not allow any translation to take place? That means this point A, which under if it was a roller support would have moved to A dash, since it is a hinge joint, it will not move. Now, who will prevent it? This horizontal force HA2 will prevent it to move from A to A dash. Now, the direction of this horizontal force would be opposite to the direction of the translation. Now, the translation is in the leftward direction, so the horizontal force will be in the rightward direction. Similarly, over here, HD2 would be in the leftward directions. Now, let us move to the frame number 3. Let us try to replicate what we have learned from frame 2. The load is just vertically upward load, so this member BC is going to hog like this. Now, since these two joints are going to be rigid joints, this point A is going to move to this A dash point but inside of the frame, and since C is also a rigid joint, the point D is going to move to D dash. This is A dash and this is D dash. This would have happened when A and D would be rollers, but now in reality, are these rollers? No, these are what? These are the hinge joint, that is they do not allow any translation. So who will prevent them? The horizontal reaction at A. The direction of this horizontal reaction would be opposite to the direction of the translation. The translation is in the right side, so horizontal force at A would be in the leftward directions. Similarly, HD3 would be in the rightward direction. Now, when I say about the frame number 2, I can say that since there is no any external force acting on the system, external horizontal force acting on the system, there is no one. So I can say that HA2 and HD2 would be same, equal in magnitude but opposite in direction. So I can say that HA2 will be equal to HD2 because they are equal in magnitude but opposite in direction, because summation of horizontal forces, equilibrium equation has to be maintained, right? And let us say I call this as H. Similarly, come to frame number 3. Since there is no any horizontal external force acting on the system, I can say that HA3 will also be equal to HD3, right? Both these horizontal forces will be equal in magnitude but opposite in direction, because the equilibrium equation, that is summation fx has equal to 0, has to be maintained. And we know that when a frame is in equilibrium, each and every section or each and every point in it has to be in equilibrium. Now the horizontal force for the frame number 2, the horizontal force HA2 or HD2, because both are same, would be some function of the load P. Similarly, here also it is going to be some function of load P. For the what is the value, let us not talk about right now. And now since there is no external force, HA2, HD2 are both are same and we call it equal to H. Right. Now come to frame 3. HA3 and HD3 is also same because there is no any external force acting on the system, equal in magnitude, opposite in direction. Now if you carefully observe frame 1 now, frame 1, carefully observe. If I try to have this as a center line of this frame, I can say that it is not a symmetric frame, but it is a counter symmetric. Now what do I mean by counter symmetry? Here point A, I am having a hinge joint, here also a hinge joint, a rigid joint. If I try to replicate this over here, a mirror image, better word would be mirror image. Try to observe a mirror image of this left half. Which left half? This left half. Try to have a mirror image with this, the right half. What will you observe is that the members' dimensions are the same. The support conditions are also the same. Now then what is the difference? The difference is in the load. Now what is the load difference? The magnitude is also the same, P and P. The distance from the end, L by 3, here also L by 3, it is the same, just the direction is different. Here the load is in the vertically downward direction, but here the load is in the vertically upward direction. That is the only difference. That is, it is a not symmetric but counter symmetry, right? The frame or the inherent structure of the frame is the same, the length of the member AB and CD is the same, the moment of inertia or the section size, whatever you call it, it is the same, the support condition at A and D is the same. Thus the difference is with the load. Now what exactly the difference is? The load P, the magnitude is the same, the distance from the ends is also the same, just the direction is different. In other way, you can say that you simply reverse this half frame, which you can see with the color green, just replicate it, just reverse it, or do a mirror image with this. You will see that this point P will come over here and just flip the load upside down. You will get this frame. Then that frame is going to be called as a counter symmetry frame, right? So now if you carefully observe that, you can say that here you are having a HA2 is equal to HD2 is equal to the horizontal force, that is H, if you clearly observe this frame number 2. And frame number 3, the load is the same, P load. Here also it was a P load, here also it is a P load. The distance from point B, L by 3 is the same, the distance from point C, L by 3, distance is also the same, that is the point of application of the load is also the same. The magnitude is the same, the location is the same, just the direction is different. Instead of being a vertically downward over here, it is a vertically upward over here. That means the magnitude of this horizontal force will be the same, but the direction would be different, and that you have obtained. HA2 is in the rightward direction, here HA3 is in the leftward direction, and this leftward and rightward is only because of this vertically downwards and vertically upwards. In other words, can I say HA2 will be equal to HA3? Yes, correct. Similarly, I say that HD2 will be equal to HD3. Now the reason is very simple. I again like to repeat it. See, the load is the same, magnitude is the same, the point of application of that load is also the same. It is at a distance of L by 3 from point B, it is at a distance of L by 3 from point C. If you obtain a mirror image, it is equidistant with respect to the center, with respect to the center, with respect to the center. Just the direction is different. Here it is vertically downward, here it is vertically upward. That is the only difference, and this will have an effect on the direction of the horizontal forces, which you can see over here, or which you can see from the direction of HD2 and the direction of HD3. Here HD2 is in the leftward direction, here HD3 would be in the rightward direction, but the magnitude would be same. So now when I add both the frames of frame number 2 and frame number 3, what I'm going to get, let us see over here. This is HA2, which is equal to HA3. This is HA3, right? When I add the horizontal reactions of both these frames, the magnitude is the same, but the direction is different, and when the direction is opposite to each other, they will cancel out each other, and as a result I'm going to get the horizontal reaction at A at 0, and summation Fx is equal to 0, horizontal reaction at D is also 0. Similarly, HA3 is equal to 0 and HD3 is also going to be equal to 0. That means the entire system does not have any horizontal forces acting on the system. You can simply visualize also this vertically downward load when applied will try to make this point move outwards and this outwards. Also, when you add this load to the system, like here, the point which was now A dash will again try to come inside eventually without even having the support reaction. These loads will balance each other in such a way that the horizontal reaction do not develop at all, right? So that is the beauty of this symmetry and anti-symmetry, which you can clearly see over here, right? So I say that the horizontal reaction over here is 0. So friends, what you observe here, the horizontal reaction at here HA2 is 0, HA2 is 0, HD2 is also 0. Similarly, HA3 is 0 is equal to HD3. Now when you add both these frames together, I can say that horizontal reaction at A will be 0 and horizontal reaction at D will also be equal to 0. One is 0, other has to be 0 because there is no any external force which is acting on the system. Now as against the vertical load, the vertical reaction at point A and at point D, D will be VD1 is equal to VD2 plus VD3. Similarly, VA1 will be equal to VA2 plus VA3. Now these VA will also be some function of P. Now forget about the values because we are not dealing with the values. We just want the qualitative analysis. Right. Now we have added both of these. Now let us analyze only frame number 1 now. This is what is there. Horizontal reaction is 0, here it is 0, here horizontal reaction is 0, and here there will be some kind of vertical reaction, the value of whose we are not concerned. Now what do we want to know now? We want to draw the bending moment diagram and we want to know the deflected shape. Now the deflected shape will depend upon the bending moment diagram, right? So the what first we have to calculate or first we have to draw is the bending moment diagram or BMD, right? Now if I observe this point or this column AB, consider this column AB, I can say that since there is HA is equal to 0, that is the horizontal force is not existing over here, this member AB is going to be subjected to pure axial force. Now who is going to produce the pure axial force? This vertical reaction at A. Similarly, on other hand, if I say observe this vertical member CD, since there is no horizontal force here, HD is equal to 0, so there will be no bending moment which will be developed in this CD. The bending moment will be 0, and this member CD would be subjected to pure axial force. Now here also who is going to develop the pure axial force? It is going to be the vertical force VD over here, pure axial force, right? So the system will have only bending moment in this beam, that is BC. Now let us draw the free body bar diagram of this beam. Let us see. This beam will be over here and these two columns will be over here. This is point A. This is going to be the vertical reaction at A. This HA is equal to 0. Similarly, this is also going to be a hinge support. The vertical force here it is VD. Horizontal reaction here it is 0. Right, there is going to be a force P and here it is going to be a force P. The distance is L by 3, L by 3 and L by 3. Right, so now since this VA, this has to be VA, this VA downwards, this VA upwards, this VD upwards, this is going to be like this and this is going to be like this. Right, now since there is not going to be any bending moment in this AB and this column CD, I can clearly say that this point B, the joint B, and this is going to be a joint C. The moment at point B is also going to be 0, because if you can see either LHS or RHS, if you consider over here and if you see from here, the force VA will not produce any moment from this point B, since there is horizontal force is 0 at HA, HA is 0 into L 0, so moment at B is going to be 0. Similarly, the moment at C is also going to be 0 over here. That means this particular beam BC is only going to be subjected to this bending moment. And what that value would be, let us see. This point of application is over here. Since this is vertically downward load, it is going to sag, it is going to come like this, this vertically upward, this point is like this, and this is going to be my bending moment diagram. This is a sag and this is a hog, and this value 0 is going to be the center of my beam. This is going to be the center of my beam. Getting my point? I repeat, this beam MB is equal to 0, MC is equal to 0, so moment at C is equal to 0, moment at B is equal to 0, so these are 0 points. Right, now this vertically downward load will produce some moment, some will be some function of P, this also will be producing some function of P. Since this is downward load, it is going to sag like this. Since the vertical upward load, it is going to hog like this. And connect both these points. This point of contraflexure is going to be the center of this beam BC. That is, this center will be 0 moment. Right. So this is simple is the bending moment diagram of this. Now if I draw it in a full scale, I will observe that what is going to be the bending moment diagram. It is very simple. This is 0, this is 0. Let me draw A, B, C, D. These are the 2 points of application of this load. My bending moment diagram over here would be this, center point, this, and here. This is positive because sagging, this is negative because hogging, and here both of these would be 0. So this is my bending moment diagram qualitatively. Why qualitatively? Because these moment values will be a function of P. I do not know these values. Because to calculate these values, I do require a pen and a calculator. Right. Now, what about the deflected shape? Right. Now, since these members AB and CD do not carry any bending moment, I would say that they will not bend. But they will not bend does not imply that they will not deflect. There is a difference between bending and deflection, right? Which I will talk about somewhat later in my next videos, not right now. Just understand that there is a difference between a bending and a deflection. But these AB and CD two members do not carry any bending moment because it is 0 and 0. That means they will not bend, but they can deflect. They can, right? Now consider this point. This is a sagging phase and this is a hogging phase. Now I will say that under the application of these two loads, right, this is going to be somewhat like this and this is going to be bending somewhat like this. This is going to sag something and this is going to hog something. My point B can, which is initially over here, can go to the right hand side or can go to the left hand side. That depends. Similarly, my point C, which was over here, can go to LHS or RHS. That depends. Now let us see. But one thing is sure, that my bending of this beam would be something of this shape. And this will be at the center. Here there will be at the center, which will be called as the point of inflection. Will be called as the point of inflection because it is the point at which the bending moment is 0 and the center of the beam BC. So this is the center of the beam BC. That is the point of inflection. Now this beam BC is going to bend something of this sort. Some fraction would be sagging and other fraction, half fraction, would be hogging. Now what about the columns AB and CD? To understand the columns AB and CD, there is one important thing which we should know. See, to understand it, I am just going to redraw this. See, what I told you is that the bending of this beam BC would be something of this sort. Halfway would be sagging and halfway would be hogging. Now, but there can be two possibilities. Either there can be a sway in the leftward direction. What do I mean by sway? The entire frame can move to the left hand side, that is point B can move to this point B dash and C to C dash in the leftward directions, or both of them can move to the rightward directions. That is the sway. We do not know whether it will move to the LHS or the RHS at this point of time. So that is what we are up to right now. Let us first of all assume that they move to the left hand side. That is, this point B is going to move to this B dash and this point C will move to this point C dash. Now, as I already mentioned, that these joints B and C are rigid joints. Now, the rigid joint means that this is a joint B. The two members which are meeting at this joint B do carry some angle, 90 degree or any other angle can be. Now, when it is a rigid joint, after the application of the load and after bending, the joint angle remains the same. That is 90 degree will remain 90 degree, right? So now, since this point B will move to B dash, because we have assumed that the sway is on the LHS, the left hand side, we can come to know that this, if we draw a tangent over here, it will be something of this sort and this tangent would be here. So this member would be going, the column AB would be going somewhere outwards. Similarly, these column would be going somewhere inwards. That means this A would be A dash and D would be D dash. But is that possible? No. Why? Because this is a hinge joint and we know that hinge joints do not allow translation. So this point cannot move over A dash and D cannot move to D dash. So this possibility is ruled out. So now let us see about the second possibility. That is, See now friends, now here what I have assumed is that the sway is in the right hand direction. That means the point B is going to move to this new point B dash. This point C is going to move to this new point C dash. Now as I already mentioned, it is rigid joint. The angle before loading and after loading should be same. Before loading is 90 degree. So let me draw a tangent to this point. I use a different color. I draw a tangent over here and a tangent over here and a perpendicular to that. I see that my point is reaching, my member is meeting at A. Similarly, this, if I draw a tangent to this point C over here, I draw a tangent like this, right? This is my tangent. Now perpendicular to my tangent at point C, if I draw, I say that my member is meeting at point D. So can I clearly say that, as against the previous case where I have presumed if I sway would have been on the left hand side, then my point A is going to move to this A dash, which is not possible because my joint is a hinge joint. On the other hand, if I assume that my sway is in the right side direction, and if I draw the tangent and the perpendicular to the tangent, and if I draw that line, it is meeting at point A, and similarly if I draw a tangent to this point C and the perpendicular to the tangent is meeting me at point D, that means the property or the main fundamental that my hinge support should not translate is being satisfied over here. In other words, this assumption that is sway in, which is possible in the right hand side is correct, and this is going to be the deflected shape. This is not getting deflected, this is just a bending. The reason is that the bending moment is 0 because the horizontal force is 0. The bending in this column CD is also 0 because the horizontal force is 0. So this is not going to bend. It is just going to displace here at delta, and this delta, both are going to be the same. And this AB and CD, these two columns will undergo only deflection and not what? Not bending, because there is no bending moment diagram. There will be only bending in this beam BC, which will be sagging up to point of inflection and then hogging, and these would be straight only deflected. So friends, I hope you must have enjoyed this video, and this must have completely changed your perception about the topic of structural analysis. So friends, if you have liked my video, then I request you to please subscribe to my channel so that I would be more and more glad to bring new videos to you. So thank you and stay tuned.